Welcome. This is Monty once again from DPL Surveillance Equipment. I'm doing my typical 5-mile walk. We have a few things to cover. I haven't done a video in a while, so we're going to be throwing in a hodgepodge of different things into this particular video. Just a number of things to cover. So getting right into it, I'm kind of jazzed about some test results regarding my blood pressure. I was concerned for a while about my blood pressure readings because I had an AFib condition. That's a situation where your heart is actually beating erratically, and mine was beating so erratically I couldn't breathe a lot of the times, and it was getting to the point where I was staying up days and days on end because I couldn't sleep at night. Okay, instead of my heart calming down and instead of my lungs, working normally, they were struggling to provide oxygen. So it was very difficult sleeping, definitely at night. So day after day, that was becoming one big nightmare. Anyway, I underwent a procedure, and I recommend you guys, if you do the same thing, if you have an AFib condition, do whatever it takes to address it. And my procedure was an electrical shock to the heart, which actually got my heart back in the correct rhythm. So again, we got my heart back into the correct rhythm. The medication wasn't working, and shocking my heart actually put it back into rhythm. Now I'm back exercising normally, walking normally. I'm completing my 5-mile walk. I've put in at least 5 miles already, and I'm going to be putting in a little bit over 5 miles today as I walk and do this video. But anyway, my blood pressure readings, just so you guys can eat your hearts out. My blood pressure readings were 118/80 with a pulse rate of 50. So that's 118/80 with a pulse rate of 50. I think that's equivalent to like a 20-year-old. Okay, so I'm at least 3 times that. But anyway, my heart and my lungs thinks that I'm 20 years old, which is fine. I have to live with that, so that's cool. So things are looking good. Back into the gym, as I mentioned. Walking normally, walking my 5-mile walks. The good news is again in the gym, I'm exercising 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, sometimes 5 hours. I just put in 3 hours, at least 3.5 or something, 2 days ago, and it's amazingly I didn't exert as much energy as I was when I had the AFib condition. So I think we're back to normal. So that's good news. Also, what's happening with the economy? See, I'm glad you guys asked. The economy, we seem to have a number of impediments. Donald Trump is, and I have nothing against Donald Trump, per se, as a person, because I don't know him, but I'm just judging everybody according to the merits and according to what they do as compared to what they say they're going to do and all of that. Everybody is judged on the merits. I don't make any exceptions. I'm not loyal to this person, this group, or that group. I just want to just call it like it is. So anyway, the twin trade deficits and the budget deficit that we're looking at in the United States is a major drain on the economy. That tax cut that you guys got, unfortunately, I think you're going to give it all back. You're going to give all the benefits right back at the gas pump, as far as I can tell. And interest rates, higher interest rates on your credit card and your mortgages. Those things are going to eat into any benefits that you could have derived from the tax cut that he gave you. So, the government gave something one hand and took it right back on the other hand. Okay, so when you get to the gas pump, and instead of the oil per barrel amount being $40, it's $80. So that means that basically the per gallon amount is going to be substantial. It's going to eat into your budget. So if you own a company or run a company that puts out, has a fleet of cars or has a lot of salespeople on the road, and they are constantly filling up gas tanks or whatever, that's going to be a major drain on your profits. So, and then I was reading that the credit card companies, of all industries, the credit card companies are also going to be hurting because chargebacks and loan defaults. More and more people are not being responsible. Thanks for the hearts and the smiles, you guys. More and more is watching. Hi, Hamad. So more and more people are going to be defaulting and are defaulting on their credit cards, and merchants also are hurting because chargebacks. A lot of people just don't have the money to honor their purchases online and offline, and a lot of customers are actually buying things they can't afford, and then they return it, and the chargebacks are going through the roof, and companies are going out of business. See, these aren't signs of a strong economy. We don't have a strong hand to play in the United States, and Donald Trump and those guys in Washington are really playing games, okay? This so-called trade war with China, they're reneging on the trade war. I mean, when do you declare a trade war on a country only to go back, since they sent Steve Mnuchin back talking about out in front of the press with the cameras and everything pointed at him, and he's talking about, never mind you guys, we don't want to declare a trade war right now. It's not convenient. I guess they realize that China is not playing with us. China is serious. They're trying to be the new economic power, okay? So whether or not we call whether or not we postpone or something on the trade war, which is unheard of, China is not. They're not stopping. They're not backtracking. They're not relinquishing or anything like that. They're going forward with this. So I don't know. This is like a weird fucking reality that we're in right now. What else is going on? Oh yeah, just to give you an idea how powerful China is and how powerful they're going to be, they had a one-child policy, which means that most families were disincentivized to have more than one kid. Well, they're taking that policy back, okay, because they got an aging population where more people are over the age of 65 as compared to the younger workers coming into the job place. So they're going to be having bigger families, which means they're going to have more workers, more human capital, more human resources that's going to generate more income, more economic might, more economic power, so that they can be more of a formidable challenge to the United States than they are now. So if you think China has a lot of leverage and a lot of economic power or might, they're going to have even more. Okay? So I don't know, I guess the age of this empire called the United States is pretty much history. I mean, just think about it. Well, let me see. What else that I want to tell you guys about? The financial regulators are going to, and they're gonna undo Dodd-Frank. Dodd-Frank tried to limit what the banks and the financial sector could do as far as taking advantage of customers and all that. So they're going to undo Dodd-Frank. I think the House right now wants to undo Dodd-Frank. They're going to undo it. And believe it or not, what's going to happen is the banks are going to do the same thing they did before. They're going to rape the consumers. You think Wells Fargo did a lot of damage with bogus account openings, with discriminatory loan pricing, discriminatory loan practices, money laundering, which Citibank also was involved with, HSBC, UBS. All of these banks have been committing every conceivable crime imaginable, even before Dodd-Frank. So what do you think is going to happen with no Dodd-Frank? And what do you think is going to happen with when you take away the powers of the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Board Bureau? What do you think is going to happen? You think it's going to be better for the banks or worse? I can tell you it's going to be better. The more deregulation in the banking sector, when you have a bunch of greedy people who don't have to abide by the rules, who are just primarily focused on raping consumers and account holders and and taking advantage, coming out with their bogus financial products that do nothing but take money from you and give you nothing in return. Not only that, but they go out and they take good talent from MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, Harvard, and they put them in the banking sector to come up with stupid financial products like CMOs and derivatives and all of those things. And when those things implode because absolutely nobody understands how they work or what the long-term effects are, you get an economic collapse like in 2008. So basically, we're looking at a repeat of the same situation. So I hate to be a bearer of bad news, but I'm just letting you guys know the facts. The automobile industry right now, they suck. Their sedans and different cars are not being produced in the quantities they were, and everything is focused on SUVs and just a very limited handful of choices. So because the money is not there to support it, when you don't have a thriving when you don't have a thriving middle class, this is what happens. You have less choices, less products. You have single companies like Amazon and Walmart and Target and dollar stores all over the United States. That's the primary economic activity that you have when these things happen. So you guys are going to have less choice, and you're going to have more monopolies and just a handful of companies dominating the space or the retail space. So those are some of the more outstanding things. The dollar is high, which means that it's going to cost more money. How does that work? When the dollar is strong, companies outside the United States are at a disadvantage. Okay, so our cost of products is going to go up because they can't export as much, especially when you have tariffs and stuff like that. Tariffs in and of itself are not the issue. What the issue is that most Americans, they don't have the high-paying jobs anymore. Most Americans are working in the service industry. They're working for Starbucks, McDonald's, Amazon, stuff like that. Only a small number of the total population actually work for Facebook and Google and Apple. And right now, Apple is hurting so bad they can't fucking give away their smartphones because everybody has 2 or 3 smartphones and different things already from Apple. So that's oversaturation with Apple. And where was I going? So basically, the dollar is too strong, considering that we have a weak economy. That's very ironic. Oil is, as I mentioned, oil is way too high. People are going to be taxed. That's a tax on your income when you have to pay a lot of money at the gas pump. What else? Interest rates on bonds and stuff like that are going up because they have to. Because we have these idiots in Washington just issued $90 billion worth of debt to try to pay off and pay down some of the debts that we need to fund. So our government, your government, is basically getting desperate. They're issuing more debt than anybody wants in the financial markets. And this $90 billion issuance, they're going to have to pay dearly for it. They're going to have to offer high rates, high interest rates, which are going to further slow down economic progress. You think that 3.5% sucks? Just wait. It's going to get even worse than that because that's a made-up number, and it doesn't reflect how sluggish the economy really is. Well, let me see. Just so you guys would know, because I'm walking and not even showing you the beautiful scenery as I talk about this doom and gloom and depressing subject about how the economy is doing. I'm trying to give you guys the real scoop as compared to the filtered and the fake news and all the other bullshit that's going on. So it's a beautiful scenery, and we want to put some emphasis on things that are beautiful, things that are pleasant, like the surroundings here. So we have high interest rates, major debt issuance, the dollar is too strong. The what else was it? Oil is too high. Um, Sanctions on Iran are useless. Anybody that thinks Iran cares about sanctions needs to think again, because American companies, I don't know if you guys know it or not, but they're actually doing business in Iran. They're helping build the infrastructure. They've already invested and have been investing tremendously. Those projects aren't going to come to a halt just because some idiot comes into office or leaves office. Once those projects get started, and a lot of these projects, particularly American businesses doing business in Iran, they take years and years of planning, and you just don't turn on the switch and turn off a switch and cease those projects from being built. When we go over there and start building, helping with that infrastructure, help building the financial sector and everything else that we're doing as American corporations, you just don't flip a switch and stop all of that all of a sudden. So anybody's telling you that our interests in Iran are going to come to a halt right away, they're pulling your leg and blowing smoke up your ass. Besides Russia and China is happy to fill the void. China is filling all sorts of voids that United States is leaving. When it comes to the Paris Agreement, Kyoto Agreement, I think they call it. When it comes to, stepping up with development and investing in different countries that need money, China is ready, willing, and able to invest. Whether it's Iran, whether it's Venezuela, whether it's Argentina, it doesn't matter. Those guys have more than enough money to throw around. Again, because the population is so large, and that one-child policy is going to be taken back, and they're going to allow those families to grow. They're going to have more workers, more taxpayers, and that's what's going to happen. So there's a lot of things that we need to keep in mind going forward over the long term. In the cryptocurrency space, you guys know I always have to throw in cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin's influence and what it means. As the current system collapses under its own weight, make sure that you have enough diversification just in case. You got to have a backup plan. You got to have something. I don't care if you get gold or silver or Bitcoin, get something, because as the current system implodes more and more, and it's gradual and it's being hidden very well, that means that you guys are going to have a backup plan. So the dollar is becoming worth less and less every day, and that means as you get your groceries, as you pay your bills, as you get your gas, it's going to take a lot of money. In Venezuela, for instance, is very obvious. Their inflation rate is, 30,000% or 40,000 or some ridiculous number. That is basically what the United States is looking at, okay? Whether or not you believe it, whether or not you want to admit it or not, when you have to be practically a millionaire, like a lot of us in California, if you have to be a millionaire just to survive, that kind of tells you something is wrong, okay? The housing in California is, particularly California and San Francisco, and particularly in San Francisco rather, is artificially propped up and kept high, and it's not at all reflective of what the true value of the housing is. So there's a number of things that are artificially kept up, and there is no reason why those prices should be where they are, especially for housing. So anyway, there's a number of things going on. I didn't cover half of them, but I just want to let you guys know that certain underpinnings definitely are real and they're present, and stay informed and stay educated, and get you some Bitcoin, or get you some gold, or get you some silver or something like this, because as the dollar erodes more and more and more, you're going to work harder and harder and harder. Employers, just so you know, employers are cheating. For those of you who work 9 to 5 or something, employers are cheating a lot of workers, in that I was just reading the other day, the employers are using the time clock. They're rounding down when you guys stay over and work overtime. They're rounding down those numbers so that you don't get paid overtime when you deserve it. And if you're a nurse, or if you're if you're in a certain profession, when you forfeit your lunch or something like that, you're supposed to get paid that money because you worked through the lunch, through the break, or something like that. So if you work in a nursing industry and you have a patient who comes in, has some sort of heart condition or whatever it is, you can't afford to just say, I'm going to lunch, I'm going to break. You have to work. So there's no reason for a lot of these employers to be docking nursing professionals and such for 30 minutes, for instance, when they actually had to work through it. Okay, the employers know it, the employees know it, and it's wrong. Okay, but again, when a corporation has the opportunity to make $100,000 or more per year, or whatever the time frame is, because they're docking people for times that where they actually worked, but they were supposed to get a lunch break or something like that, but they didn't. That's wrong. And there's lawsuits flying as we speak. And so you guys be aware of that and check into that to see if what's going on with you. Because one of the latest scandals, for instance, in the service industry is where waitresses, for instance, are and waiters, their monies were being pooled together, and everybody, including management and janitors and cooks and everybody else, were allowed to dip into that wage pool, even though they were nowhere near or affiliated with actually customer interaction. In other words, the cook and the janitor and all these people, they should be getting paid separately. Waiters and waitresses on the front line, and they interact with customers, and it's their job to really satisfy that customer so that the customer will come back to the restaurant, for instance. But when management tries to take a chunk of that money, when the cooks and the janitors and the maintenance people and all these people start dipping into that wage pool, that is wrong. Okay, I don't care how you look at it. So anyway, there's lawsuits flying back and forth, and the Bureau of Labor, or the Labor Department rather, knew about it years ago, and they looked the other way, and the Wall Street Journal finally publicized it, and a lot of employees and a lot of employers are finally starting to become educated on this, and they're speaking out. The employees are speaking out, and the lawyers are circling. So a lot of you guys be aware of that type of scam. Anyways, there's so many scams with corporations and the employers, and I think a judge just also said that arbitration, that you guys got to submit your cases to arbitration versus going individually and suing companies. Okay, you can't even get an individual lawsuit going where you've been wronged with most corporations. You have to go through arbitration, and the arbitration is stocked full of people who are basically pro the company. Okay, when an arbitration panel is pro the business, then you don't get a fair shake. You're basically dealing with people who are more interested in preserving the corporation's profits than anything else. So that's another blow to the workers of America when you have to go through arbitration and you can't file a class action lawsuit, or you can't even get your own lawyer to protect you and defend you. So anyway, there's all sorts of things that are being implemented by this stupid Trump administration. On the environmental front, for instance, California is the world-class leader when it comes to the environmental protection areas, where we're talking about car emissions and air quality. We're out in front in California, but the bad news is the stupid administration wants to roll back EPA standards, and Governor Brown, despite all his character defects and everything else, you may like him, maybe you don't like him, he has made sure that California is in the forefront when it comes to protecting the environment, and we have the numbers and the stats and the air quality to prove it. But at the same time, this idiot in Washington, who you guys call your president, is trying to roll back EPA standards so cars can pollute more as compared to polluting less. Now, the good news is a lot of these states are following California's lead, and they're making sure that they don't roll back, because they see we're making progress, cleaning up the air, cleaning up the environment, and the green jobs are flourishing even in the solar and wind and all that. That's where the hiring is taking place, not in the coal sector. Coal is going out. Green energy is where the hiring is where the jobs are, is where the economic activity is coming from when it comes to energy. So anyway, there's a number of things that should be obvious, but you got somebody in the White House right now who is so fucking old and so stupid that I don't think he even understands. So when these old farts die out and we don't have to deal with them any longer, we're going to have a much improved situation. So concentrate on your health like I am, like my wife Carolyn is, even our cat Lazy Bones. We want to be around when we have more more people who are thinking rationally and thinking logically, and we can get rid of some of this, some of the barriers that are prohibiting us from making the progress that we should be making. Okay, there's no reason why this country and the people and who live here shouldn't be doing better. Okay, as compared to believing a lot of the false, fake news and the bullshit that comes out of Washington and some of these other places, corporate America, where you have the old farts and the gray hairs, who we're waiting for them to die out so we can start changing things a little bit quicker. Anyway, I wrapped up my my 5-mile walk, and let's see. I'm going to show you guys the final view of the nice park. It's very nice out here. I thought it was going to rain a little bit on my car, but it didn't. This car is still nice and shiny, thank goodness. I don't have to do too much to keep it that way. I'm a big fan of having a clean car, nice park environment. Everything looks good, okay? So anyway, get out, get your exercise, make sure that you live a long, prosperous, healthy life. So as we make the transition, become more enlightened, people become more focused on actually helping each other, being sympathetic and empathetic towards each other, we can all start reaping the rewards of this, the new paradigm as compared to the old one, okay? So anyway, we're going to wrap this, get in my car and get home, get something to eat. So you guys have fun, and we'll talk later.